audio's not even working, and I'm just like, fuck it, like whatever. I don't know. It's weird. It's because like um I don't know. I'm just like okay right now. You know.
It's working.
Cool.
There you go.
I think Also, I think part of like whatever me to be specific about like something sort of I think maybe unrelated. Like when I start new things, I trip on them. I'm worried about maybe you open a new store, you're like, oh shit, it's like new, I'm afraid, I'm scared, but like I eventually always get used to it, or I'm not as afraid, and I wish that like my past experiences could like help me know that now when I'm doing new things, but they don't. Like all there is now. And right now I'm not afraid, but like, if I am, I can just acknowledge that and pray about that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of just all I just like how they put it in the future.
Thanks, man.
Greg.
Craig.
So something that really stood out to me was where it talks about to work on your own consciousness concerning it. So to me, for the longest time, my default state was fear. Like, what if they don't like me? What if it doesn't work? What if I fail? Like, that was just a default for anything, right? I'm gonna go somewhere. How am I gonna die on this road trip? Like, what if I smash into, like, my mind just automatically goes there, right? So it's really refreshing when they're like, work on your own consciousness concerning it, because now the attitude is like Pat says, it's like, fuck it. Like, historically, I haven't failed. I'm still alive. People still respect me. I still have friends. Like, historically, I haven't died, so I'm gonna be all right. But it's a trip how like our subconscious just goes to like, it goes to like beat me up by default. But historically, like, I have not failed in my own terms. I haven't died yet. To me, that's the end of the movie. Like, when I die. So that's been the key. Like, just don't die. Like, and everything else is fucking gravy, right? So it's really cool how it's like, I was telling you to work on stuff now. So I've gotten into this fucked up habit where like I know I need to do the things I don't want to do first. So then that's out the way. Like that phone call we have to make, or that settlement with the IRS, like that stuff that just lives in my stomach all day. Like now the attitude and the discipline is like, let's just get that out the way. So today I had that moment where I just got a bunch of stuff that's been like sitting in my heart to get done out the way. And I looked up, it was 3:00, and I was like, wow, I feel really good right now. But like all that shit was a choice to like tackle the things that I know in my heart. Like I really need to do that. Or I really need to text that person back. I really need to send that email out. Or my insurance lapse. I need to do something. So just getting that stuff out of the way first, so it's out the way, has been a really cool discipline. So shout out to this passage.
Thanks, Greg.
Yep.
Well, we can move on if no one wants to share. We can read the next.
Oh, is it my turn?
Yeah.
Okay. Always remember that the only thought that you need to concern yourself with is the present one. The thoughts of yesterday or of last year do not matter now. Because if you can get the present thought right, it will make everything else right here and now. The best way to prepare for tomorrow is to make today's consciousness serene and harmonious. All other good things will follow upon that. Never go delving into your mind to look for troubles to pray or treat about. Deal faithfully with those that bring themselves to your attention, and hidden things will be taken care of. In the same spirit, scientific Christianity discourages too much consideration of the next plane and of after-death conditions. Such preoccupations are too often but a flight from the realities of this life and of everyday problems that should be faced and solved here, not evaded or, what is the same thing, postponed in thought. We are to dwell upon life and not death, and to concentrate upon marking our demonstration here and now. I'm Johnny, and I'm an alcoholic.
Johnny.
I also shot a lot of crystal meth. Just to let you know. So it's a miracle that I'm able to formulate sentences. Welcome back, Greg. It's been a while, man.
I never know.
Yeah, no, but like I just haven't seen you at the house, you know. And Paz, my Facebook friends. It's good to see people and pleasure to meet you, man. Welcome back to the meeting.
Crazy, no.
Yeah, I think this book is multifaceted on many levels. On a surface level, it's like an introduction to just practicing how to socialize and talk about stuff. But when you actually dive into it, it's Emmett Fox's interpretation of the Sermon on the Mount by like the most influential character in the history of the world. I mean, like Jesus Christ was next level, and to dissect Christ from any kind of human standpoint is like everyone's going to have a different interpretation, but the interesting thing about what I'm getting out of this is like there is no Johnny. You know, there's no pressing issue that needs to be addressed right now that I'm going to solve with my intellect. And the Christ consciousness really is like the opposite of selfishness. It's all about altruism. It's all about others. And if I can focus on what's good for everybody, the little things like what's good for me, like if I focus on what I want, I'm gonna have arguments with baby mama. I'm gonna have arguments with my sponsor. I'm gonna have opinions about everyone else's opinions. If I focus on what's good for everybody involved, I usually work out best. You know, this idea of like being like thinking I have an identity, you know, like I'm Johnny, I say these things, I come from this kind of family, I stand for this, I stand for that. It's all subject to interpretation based on like new information. Who I thought I was 6 months ago is not who I think I am now. Who I thought I was 5 years ago is not who I think I am now. So there really is no Johnny. Essentially, like I'm really just this talking organism that's attached to the couch. You know, and if I can get reduced to that base level, like there is no Johnny. I'm just a human having an experience that's really only based on what you guys are doing. You know, like left to my own devices, I'm just like an extension of the couch. But when Greg shows up and Madison shows up and Pat shows up and Paz shows up and Billy shows up and the dog starts barking, then there's this new organism that shows up. And now Johnny can interpret what you guys are saying to have an opinion. But otherwise, like I'm just this creature sitting here, really like experiencing you. And when I can accept like other people, I don't have to project myself. You know, I don't have to like sell my resume. You know, LA is so big on like, who do you know? What do you do? What do you drive? What can you do for me? And it's fucking exhausting when you can just be a creature and just accept what comes is going to come, what goes is going to go. Then you can be this open vessel for like new information. And every day can be a new experience. I can experience baby mama from a new light today to where like we don't argue anymore. Like this is a woman that put me in jail years ago. Like we are like best buddies now. And we have the daughter together and like and she hasn't changed. It's just like my interpretation of like who she is and who I am in relation to my daughter has changed. And that's only because of like the steps, you know, admitting that I'm fucked and then realizing there's something outside of myself that can unfuck me. And then deciding to turn my will, which is what I want, and my life, which is what I do, over to this thing. And then realizing that the thing is going to be unselfish. I can't have a selfish God who just wants like what's best for Johnny. He's got to want what's best for everybody around me too. Otherwise, it's just going to be this like egomaniac that's trying to constantly sell himself to be this character that is ever changing and ever evolving, and there's no Johnny. And I can just be like here, experiencing Shane and Caleb and Pat and Madison, and this silly little book of like wordy development. I get to have an experience that's new and really enjoy like being here. Thanks.
Thanks, John.
Very interesting. Anyone want to share?
Ashley, alcoholic.
Ashley.
I like the part where it just says like never go delving into your mind, and before it says the best way to prepare for tomorrow is to make today's consciousness serene and harmonious. And I think that's like goes along with that quote that if you're living in the future, you're living in anxiety or worry. If you're living in the past, you're living in a kind of depression. And throughout the day, sometimes if I go delving into my mind, I attach a tense to a thought. So I think that's what it was talking about, like living in the present moment. So if I'm like, oh, I cannot forget to fill out my PB, like my paperwork, and I'm like, I worry about it. That's that's attaching a tense to it. That's attaching like you're thinking about your future tripping in a sense. And then if you're just kind of reminding yourself, oh, don't forget about that, and then you let it go. Without fail, I usually remember before the time comes to do it. It's almost like when you get stuck in a worry, you don't develop like a flow of thought that will actually get you to it in time. So like even in the morning when you're like, oh, I need to wake up, I can't forget to wake up. I hope I don't sleep through my alarm. Like you most likely will sleep through your alarm if you're just tripping about that. But if you're like, oh, don't forget to wake up in an hour, you like wake up before your alarm goes off. I don't know. It's almost like you can get stuck in a tense, but if you just see it like a meditation, like where you see your thought, you acknowledge it, and you let it pass, you don't get stuck into it, and then it works out usually because it says all other good things will follow upon that. So I agree with that. So I thought.
Thank you.
What's a tense? Like a past tense or present tense or
Yeah, a
future tense?
Mhm.
Okay, right.
Billy. Thanks, guys, for sharing. You guys, I was just thinking, like, you're talking about no Johnny, and like, we're talking about the third step and no wants. I mean, imagine, because all my strife comes from me identifying and me wanting. If I didn't have those two things, I wouldn't be upset or happy, probably. I would just be, well, I kind of have this natural state of like maybe awe just at the world and life. So I wonder if I would just maybe exist in awe, like, wow, like when I say awe, I'm talking about the multitude of life and all the little Goldilocks zone and all the little hair fraction things that are causing us to be alive right now. Like the atmosphere is burning everything that's bombarding this planet. If there was no atmosphere, just the perfect way it is, the balance, we would be dead. If we weren't in the Goldilocks zone, we'd be dead. If the Earth wasn't spinning at this certain speed, we'd be dead. If the sun wasn't this far away, I mean, there's so many things. If there wasn't microorganisms dominating everything, we'd be dead. Like anyway, so for me, it's kind of fun and interesting, right? So Alan Watts has this quote I love. I see it on TikTok every now and then. It's like, it's so improbable for life to even be that it shouldn't even have happened, but yet it is, and we're experiencing it. And it's just part of that awe thing. And what I found in my personal experience here is like I've wasted my life tripping on the future, or they say in the AA literature, like in remorse, like I don't remember exactly how they say it, but I was so fucking miserable for so long. All my 20s, all my teens, right up into my 30s. Just poor me. Like, oh, or else I'd be all inspired. Like I'm gonna do 30 push-ups and then run, and I'm gonna get this job. But it was always me, I. So I really like when you say no, Johnny, because that to me success is measured in peace of mind and joy. It's not money, it's not anything. It's just enjoying this journey because I know I'm going to be dead soon. And I know that very well because just about everybody in my family's dead. So I've watched it happen and it does happen. But when I was younger, I didn't quite realize that death is so real. What am I trying to say? Is if you can enjoy this fucking day, which is right now, because all time is right now, then you're enjoying your life. And it's so valuable because you don't have anything more valuable than your life. And I just was throwing it away, not even knowing, like I was unaware. And so that's why I appreciate this book and a group of people to like talk to about this stuff because I need to be reminded, like constant reminders, or else I just go right back into the hell of my head. Hey, you're looking dapper. That's it. Thank
You knew
you.
you were coming.
We're on page. We just read page 106.
107.
107.
Chapter 6.
Oh, we read 106 and 107. And we're moving on, I guess, unless anyone else. Do you want to share, sir? What's your
Yeah,
name?
my name is Tej. Shit. Oh, time's up. Go
Sorry.
ahead.
No, no. That was for Billy.
Hi, Sam. Good to see you. Nice to see you. It's been a long time. Pej, grateful member of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's so good to be in this meeting tonight. Like, there's some fucking powerful shares I'm hearing here. Seriously, this is good stuff.
Yeah.
Y'all are deep. Especially you, Johnny. I didn't know you speak so well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hang up.
I gotta say, like everything I've heard tonight, has truly touched my soul. I'm not kidding, and I don't just say that. I sit in a lot of meetings and I hear a lot of jargon, but like this is good. This is really good, and I love this book because when I was reading it at first, I was like, I haven't read this since I first got sober 14 years ago, and it's deep. It's like so deep and truly like something you had shared about, which I would hear in the rooms about. Um, Anxiety is when we're future tripping, and depression is when we're stuck in the past, so we rob ourselves of this present moment. I think between like these early readings, between the big book and this and the step work and power of now and all these different spiritual teachers that were teaching me early on, and I had this primetime sponsor that was really big on this book. He would take me through this, and at first I was kind of like the guy that left the room. I was like, it's a lot of Jesus talk, man. It's a lot of Christianity. I've tried to get away from this all my life. Like it's like back in front of me, but it's really not even that. I think the art of good living is when we actually do tap into the present moment and be able to find serenity in it. And that happened with me by accident. Like I think it's because of all the things that I did in the beginning, but just like maybe 3 years, I was sponsoring people. I was finally out of self. I wasn't self-consumed. And I was like driving over this hill, and I turned on Led Zeppelin over the hill and far away. And just like in that moment, with the windows rolled down and the air coming in, I just thought, fucking, I feel so good right now. Like I feel better than I ever was when I was high. And that was it. I was like, wait a second. I'm in the moment. I'm enjoying the moment. And so like I long to enjoy the moment every day. It never serves me well. And I'm older now. I'm 50 years old. It's like it doesn't serve me well to sit there and worry about shit that's gonna happen in 6 months or 6 minutes for that matter. Then I won't be able to cherish this very moment and live in the present. And I love when I sit amongst people who have tapped into something greater than themselves. Some of us call that God, right? And for a long time, I was so hung up on this whole God idea, but I fell in love with God. Like in my first year of sobriety, I fell in love with the power greater than myself, which I very comfortably call God now. And so now when I interact with people that are newcomers or people that keep going out and relapsing, I often they say the two words that like fuck with them the most is the anxiety and the depression. And truly, I think like a lot of that's like trauma based. Like if something has fucked you up so bad to where you can't just be in the present moment and enjoy this present moment. Therefore, like I often wonder, how do I get it across to this person that the only thing I can talk about is my own experiences, how I tapped into something greater than me, which I call God, and why I love it so much and why it's my driving force. And I hope that you can find that too. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Well, we can continue to share on this, or we can move on to chapter 6. We got
Let's
lots.
move on. Basically, be in the present. That's, there's not much like.
Did you say Pez?
Pej.
Pez.
Yes.
Will you read?
Sure. Chapter 6, with what measure you meet. All right. Judge not that ye. Do I read that part?
Yeah,
Oh,
and then we'll go
Jesus,
into
I can't see this.
read that, and then the next paragraph, and it'll start explaining it.
Okay. Judge not.
Choco, come on.
Judge not that ye not judged, for with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged.
I love this shit.
And
It's
with
so
what
awesome.
measure you meet, it shall be measured in you again. And why beholdest, Jesus Christ, I can't see.
Johnny,
Do you
go
want
ahead.
these?
Oh,
Do you want
yeah.
these glasses?
Watch this.
Judge not
Look, can
that
we
ye
get
be not
character, though?
judged, for with
Yeah,
what
yeah.
judgment
Hit
ye
us
character?
with the character.
Oh, do you want me to do Hopkins?
Just whatever.
Judge not that ye be not judged, for with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged, and with what measure ye meet, it shall be measured to you again. And why beholdest thou that mote that is in thy brother's eye, but carest not thy beam that is in thine own eye? Or how wilt thou say to thy brother, let me pull out the mote out of thine eye, and behold, the beam is in thine own eye? Thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of thine own eye, and then thou shalt see clearly to cast out the mote out of thy brother's eye.
There you
Now
go.
you can read.
Should I continue?
Yeah.
And the interpretation of that is, well, now I can actually see this.
Oh.
That was really small. Thank you, though. This section of the Sermon on the Mount consists of 5 short verses and only about 100 words, and yet it is hardly too much to say that at its simple face value, it is the most staggering document ever presented to mankind. In these 5 verses, we are told more about the nature of man and the meaning of life, and the importance of conduct and the art of living, and the secret of happiness and success, and the way out of trouble, an approach to God, and the emancipation of the soul, and the salvation of the world, than all the philosophers and theologians and the savants put together have told us. For it explains the great law. It is vastly more important that a man and still more that a child should be taught the meaning of these 5 verses than that he should learn anything else that is taught in schools or colleges. There's nothing to be found in any of the ordinary courses of study. There's nothing to be learned in any library or in any laboratory that is 1/1,000,000th part as important as the information contained herein. If it were ever possible to justify the fanatical saying, burn the rest of the books, for it is all this one, it would be in reference to those words.
Gee,
Damn.
well, can you read the next paragraph? Sounds
Right,
really
yeah.
important. Would you?
Yeah, judge not that ye be not judged, for with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged, and with what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you again.
No, can you?
So keep going?
Yes, please.
Oh, all right.
So deep.
If the average man understood for a single moment the meaning of these words and really believed them to be true, they would immediately revolutionize his whole life from top to bottom, turn his everyday conduct inside out, and so change him that in a comparatively short space of time, his closest friends would hardly know him. Whether he were the prime minister in the cabinet or the man in the street, this understanding would turn the world upside down for him. And because the thing is infectious, beyond computing, it would turn the world upside down for many, many others as well.
Well, they're not getting to the meat of it. Ashley, will you read the next paragraph?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get into the
Yeah.
explanation.
Again and again, we are struck with amazement upon rereading this Sermon on the Mount with a fresh mind to find how completely its most challenging statements have been quietly ignored in practice by the bulk of the Christian world. If one did not know for the fact that these words are constantly heard in public and read in private and by millions and millions of Christians of all sorts, he could hardly believe it to be possible. For the truths with which they teach seem to be the last consideration to enter into people's motives in everyday life and conduct, and yet they express the simple and inescapable law of life. The plain fact is that it is the law of life that, as we think and speak and act towards others, so will others think and speak and act towards us. Whatever sort of conduct we give out, that we are inevitably bound to get back. Anything and everything that we do to others will sooner or later be done to us by someone, somewhere. The good that we do to others shall receive back in the like measure. And that the evil that we do to others in like manner, we shall receive back, mean that the same people whom we treat well or ill will be the actual ones to return the action. That almost never happens, but what does happen is that at some other time or place, often far away and long afterwards, someone else who knows nothing, whatever of the previous action, will nevertheless repay it again. Grain for grain to us. For every unkind word that you speak to or about another person, an unkind word will be spoken to or about you. For every time that you cheat, you will be cheated. For every time that you deceive, you will be deceived. For every lie that you utter, you will be lied to. Every time that you neglect a duty or evade a responsibility or misuse authority over other people, you are doing something for which you will inevitably have to pay by suffering like injury yourself. With what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you again.
Damn, that was deep.
Sounds like some karma.
Very much.
It's Greg.
Well,
That
whoever
whole
just-
like what I don't like about you is what I don't like about me is what resonated here. I've been taking that approach lately when I'm calling my friends out. Like I had this friend of mine who like all he did was like drink cigarettes and smoke coffee, right? So then I was gonna call him out, and I was like, wait, how am I similar to that? I vape all the time, and I always have a nice coffee. So what I don't like about you is what I don't like about me. So I just shut up and just held it to myself, and I felt better with that attitude of like checking myself, like the shit I'm gonna talk right now, like how am I guilty of that? So like what I'm judging on, like I should judge myself on that.
Yeah, it hit me pretty hard too because I'm a character assassinator and I do it to everybody. I'm sorry, even with that.
mostly me.
No, I just
Oh,
do
shit.
it. It sounds like a good thing, right? But it's man, if I get all the fucked up shit I've thought about people, maybe my actions have not been quite as bad, but the thought process has been just murderous. I'm pretty fucked. I got some karma freight train headed my way.
Not really, because you can start loving people.
It's so much harder.
All right.
I mean, you're right. Yeah.
It reminds me of like if you like say you were having a great normal day and you hopped in your friend's car and they were like blatantly like in a bad mood and all of a sudden now you feel kind of shitty. It's like the energy you put out, it's gonna like someone's gonna be magneted to that. If that makes sense. It's like if you're around someone who's like acting miserable, chances are you're not gonna be as happy as you were when you walked into the situation. Whereas like if you're giving out that positive energy and just like doing the complete contrary, people are gonna feed off of that. If you get what you give, essentially. That's kind of how I see it.
I think it's like multi-level. There's like that, and there's like if I'm character assassinating somebody in the present moment, I'm not happy. I'm like all inside, right? So there's that, and then in all respects, it's kind of sucky.
And how the author stresses how important this passage is, right? Like if you're
Oh,
gonna take anything out of this book, it's like this passage right here. He's like, burn all the books, like just to hit home to like judge so that you're not judged for like the shit you talk is gonna come on back to you. Like that right there. Burn every other book. Like, how refreshing. So then that means if I just mind my own business and let you go about your miserable way, I'm gonna be good. Instead of being so like, here's what you're doing wrong, like, or here's what I don't like about this person. That's easy. Let them be.
Corey, I'll call it. I think it goes further than that even.
Mhm.
Just kind of realizing like what's the opposite of judging someone. I think it has to do with like I think forgiveness might be at the core of the there has to be like a counteraction because a lot of the time it's just a reflex. You're judging someone like it's a I see it and I just like start judging. It's like there has to be some action I can take and not just shut up and let you be,
Right.
but like an action I can take in a positive sense of like
Compassion.
right. I think forgiveness is at the core of that.
The action is inventory. Like, it's what's my part. Like, it's just crazy. This is the fucking steps, bro. It's like I get to see my kind of like what you're saying. Like, I get to see the beam, pull out the behold a beam in thine own eye. Like, so basically, like, what's my resentment? Oh, cool. All that is a way for me to see my fucking part and pull the beam out of my own eye. So that's the action that we take, is find our part, look inwardly. Beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but considerest the beam that is in thine eye.
Just to clarify, the mote is like that's like an old school word for like some little small like a sawdust.
Right.
It's like
So
little
the
thing
small
hidden in
thing
big
that's it's like a small thing in you, but it's maybe a big thing in me, right? Like a beam. A beam must be bigger than a mote.
Mm.
Or how wilt thou say to thy brother, let me pull out the mote out of thy eye? So basically, once I see my part, I can actually, then I can start casting out motes out of my brother's eyes, which, yeah, I feel like that's what it's all about, right? So we do our inventory first, and then we help someone else do theirs. It's no wonder this shit was the original step work. Like, this was the shit this is what the steps came from. Pulling beams and motes out of eyes.
Yeah, Billy. I was listening to Jordan Peterson on the way here, and all these these principles, whatever let's just call them principles. They're kind of universal, right? Like, they'll talk about it in psychology, they'll talk about it here, it talks about it in the Bible, probably other religious things. And he was talking about how I'm the perp, I'm the problem, I'm the sinner, right?
Always.
It's me.
Mm-hmm.
And they were going on to say that you need to recognize that before you can do good. You need to recognize the evil that you're capable of before you can do good, heal others, love, like the positive things. And then they always use Nazi Germany as a comparison because it's so recent and easy. But like most people let me just talk about me. Long ago, I would think there's no way I would do that shit that the Nazi regime did, right? No way. But most of those people were just normal people. Not all of them were psychopathic, murderous people, but they did perform atrocities. And to see that in the right circumstances, that could be me very easily, and that I'm not special or unique, and that I am capable of this kind of stuff, also opens my eyes to the capabilities on the other polar end. Like, I don't know if I'm explaining myself well, but I really like that idea because people are capable of some shit, and a lot of people have done some shit, and I've done some shit. Maybe it's little shit. Maybe I stole a candy bar, or maybe I robbed my grandma. I don't know, but we've all done it on some level or another, and even if it is just $20, like I get overpaid from the cash register, I'll hold on to that. And I'll never forget that that poor girl gave me an extra $20. So when she has to count out her till at the end of the day, she's going to get in trouble. I saw it and I knew it. And I didn't say anything and I kept the $20, but I'll probably end up losing $20 is what this is saying, or
Yeah.
more maybe because I knew or something. So
How
That's
can
it.
you? How would you ever do the atrocities of Nazi Germany?
I'm sure if all my peers and everyone I knew and grew up with were doing that, and also if you were going to be blacklisted and lose your job and you couldn't feed your family if you didn't go along with the picture, you might think differently. You know, you could delude yourself. What do they call it? Denial, all kinds of shit that we're capable of, right? I mean, you'd probably end up with them. I mean, the people in the camps, if you didn't follow, or at least you'd be ostracized. And if you have a family, you know, your kids come first.
Yeah. Hitler's manipulation. He was like one of the greatest spokesmen of all time. So I mean, you can definitely see where you're coming from.
I mean, you see it over and over and over in history, like Genghis Khan and his clan. They're not all horrible people. They're just fucking murderous horse riders that kill people. That's just what they do, right? It's like, and then we'll look at Rome. They went and conquered and killed. It's just throughout history, we're just fucked up. We're like, well, I don't even want to judge it. Human beings are capable of doing some messed up stuff, and they're capable of doing wonderful stuff also. But to know that is important, I think, because you can't get up on your soapbox, start preaching some bullshit if you know that you're also capable. It's like, Jesus, what did they say? Don't thou who cast the first stone or some shit. Like, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Whoever's without sin cast the first stone.
Yeah.
Oh, so unless you haven't sinned,
Yeah, he drew a
don't
line
throw
and
the
there was a
stone.
girl there to be stoned. He said, whoever doesn't have any sin, go ahead and stone her. And they walked away.
Or like, don't point your fingers if your hands are dirty.
But everyone's hands are dirty, so no one should be pointing.
And how refreshing is it that I pulled the mote out of my eye? It's not my brother's responsibility to pull it out of my eye, right? So like I've gotten into this mindset where I'm like, let me try to operate at my best for me so that the universe will bring me the right partner, the right business transaction, the right people, right? So like what a cool reminder that like it's my responsibility to like pull that mote out of my own eye. It ain't Pat's job to pull it out of mine because he's busy trying to pull one out of his, you know, but together when we can see, like now it's a game changer, right? So it's really refreshing that the universe leaves it up to me and not up to my brother. Like so many times I'm waiting for somebody to fix me. And like now I'm at the point in my life where I don't need that. Like show up ready, whether it's a relationship, a friendship, a partnership, like anything, right? Just show up ready because I'm gonna try my best to show up ready with no motes in my eye. That's cool.
Gappers.
Anyone else want to share? Any quiet people? Sam?
I'm Sam. I don't know what a fucking mote is.
Sawdust.
I've got an image of like some giant splint, but it doesn't matter. I'm just thinking about this thing about judgment, and that, you know, when I was actually talking to a sponsee, other sponsee, today about the fact that my primary character defect is spiritual arrogance. Unsurprisingly to you, I'm sure. But what that means is that a lot of the time I'm in meetings looking at people saying, man, this motherfucker is sick. But it really, what I'm asking is, am I the same? What if I'm the same? What if that's me? What if I'm that delusional? What if I'm, whatever the fuck I'm judging someone for, it's the fear of like, what if that's me? And so when I make those judgments, what I'm really doing is I'm using the people around me to try to determine what to think of myself. And so I think one of the things it's sort of saying is that the degree to which, that you get what you give, when you put that kind of judgment out into the world, it poisons not just your experience of the world, but your relationship with yourself and your self-esteem. Because, essentially judgment is an extension of ego, which is to say, where do I fit on the totem pole?
Mm.
Which is always going to leave you falling short and therefore feeling like shit. Whereas if you remove judgment, you come back to, in the absence of comparison, I'm enough, which has nothing to do with anyone else. It's just naked as I say to all the time, naked as the day I was born, right in this moment, and perfect, whole, and complete. That doesn't require anyone to tell me I did a good job or give me a raise or, and there's no comparison involved. So it's like standing on a mountaintop with no one else around, I'm enough. And like I said, I fail at it all the time, but, it's like I at least know the path to freedom from it, which is to work on, and meditate on that fact, which is that now is good. No, I'm not, like I remember someone congratulating me on a 60-day chip once, and I said, getting there. That was my response.
You said what?
Getting there. And it's like, getting where? What are you counting up to something? But it's always based on this idea of like, I am a work in progress that is guaranteed unfinished. And it's like, no, now, there is no cooked. Now is good. Like, yeah, of course, we're all working, we want progress. I also want perfection, but we're working on progress. We're working to move forward. We have goals, but now is good. Now is enough. I'm not already enough. Like, I'm not working toward crossing some imaginary line. It's already here. So,
Thanks.
I have to pee, so I'll be back.
Fun. Madison, did you want to?
Am I reading?
Yeah, so we left off on that last passage was with what measure you meet. Bottom of page 110.
Got it. Now, is it not obvious that if only people realized all this as being literally true, it would have been the profoundest influence on their conduct? Would not such an understanding do more in practice to decrease crime and raise the general morale standard of the community than the laws ever passed by parliaments or all the formal punishments meted out by judges and magistrates? Magistrate. People are very apt to think, especially when they are strongly tempted, that they can probably escape the law of the land, outrun the constable, or slip through the clutches of authority in some other way. They hope that individuals will forgive them, or else be powerless to revenge their actions, or that the thing will be forgotten sometime, or better still, that they will never be found out at all. If, however, they understood that the law of retribution is a cosmic law, impersonal and unchanging as the law of gravity, neither considering persons nor respecting institutions, without rancor, but without pity, they could think twice before they treated other people unjustly. The law of gravity never sleeps, is never off duty or off its guard, is never tired out, is neither compassionate nor vindictive, and no one would ever dream of trying to evade it, or coax it, or bribe it, or intimidate it. People accept it as being inevitable and inescapable, and they shape their conduct accordingly. And the law of retribution is even as the law of gravity. Water finds its own level sooner or later, and our treatment of others returns at last upon ourselves. Madison. So, yeah, I feel like there's just like this balance. Whatever I put out there is kind of like what I'm gonna receive. and having integrity to just like constantly do the right things. And um I like this line, especially when they are strongly tempted that they can probably escape the law of the land or unrun the constable or slip through the clutches of authority in some other way. They hope that individuals will forgive them. So it's kind of like having some principles and having some morale to not fall into those temptations that, that we'll regret later. It's about just, to me, doing the right things with integrity, and it keeps the balance.
Thanks, Madison.
I'm Johnny. I'm an alcoholic.
Johnny.
And I am really grateful to be here. And I'm even more grateful to not have drank as much coffee as I used to drink before I would come here. Because now it's like I don't have that pressing anxiousness to say my opinion about a topic. I'm able to listen, and this is like, it's really a joy, Thank you for sharing, Sam and Madison, and everybody, really. I was just thinking, like, this whole thing, the book, the meeting, it's all extrapolated from the teachings and works of the personal life of Jesus Christ. And even if it was just a matter of literature, it's interesting to think about the person of Jesus Christ. Who was he? What did he stand for? What did he do? Even if he was just a character in a story like Anakin Skywalker, like, he's got to be the most even more so than the Buddha, because the Buddha was big on just like removing self from the equation and like becoming enlightened. But Jesus was out there in the trenches, completely unselfish. Everything he said, everything he did, he was never talking about himself. He was constantly looking for people to help. And it's just a trip because, yeah, like, even just as like a character, like, it's such an interesting character. Like, the odds of him even getting to where he was going to go with no car and no money and no camels and no horses, just like flat broke. His teachings were like based, like, deny the world, pick up your cross and follow me. And like his whole promise is about this afterlife. And I think the reason so many people, including myself, were pushed away by modern day westernized Christianity is because it sells this package deal of naming and claiming prosperity in this life. And everyone falls short and never has this personal relationship or understanding of the character that they're talking about. The character they're talking about is completely opposite of material possessions. He's like innocent and pure, but strong and deep. He's not weak and meek. He's like full alpha male. And like in movies and television, everybody that's portraying Jesus plays him like such a pushover. Like, he's just this meek sort of, like, he was like full Levitical beard, walking around in times when you get your fucking head chopped off if you didn't speak like a man. I mean, the Pharisees and the Sadducees were not playing. They were stoning people to death. You had to speak with some bass in your voice. So when you think about this Christ guy, it's like a full alpha male who's just constantly giving, constantly like helping, constantly healing, and on a mission from his father. But he was even like gonna be killed by this King Herod at birth. Like, it's just such an amazing story. And this guy wrote this whole book based on just like one part of one of the sermons of the character in the story. Jesus got up on this in the boat, 20 feet out from shore or whatever, and like there's 5,000 people, and he must have had a fucking loud voice because that's his sermon, And he said, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are the poor, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God. Blessed are you who like suffer now, for you should be," like, all these. He got into like all these things, and then now this guy's like writing this book about like how to take it and make it like about your best life now. And it's really interesting because he wrote this book based on what Jesus said. We all get to share and have like an experience of listening and learning, and really an excuse to hang out and practice how to socialize normally without drugs and alcohol, which is something that I couldn't do before. So I'm really grateful for this meeting. Thanks.
Grateful for you, Johnny.
Ashley.
Ashley.
I feel like this is basically saying, in order to like be seeking your higher self or bettering yourself, you need to understand the law of retribution as if it's something, or compared to something that's like tangible or objective, like the law of gravity. Like we can see gravity, but the law of retribution is like not always seen. It can be ran from, it can be denied. And I think along with the whole like maybe mirroring thing, you have to be willing to see it. You have to be looking for it to understand it. To be constantly bettering yourself, you have to be looking at other people and realizing like the hate you portray to them maybe the hate you subconsciously have on yourself and areas you need to fix within yourself. I think once you like understand the law of retribution, you're constantly trying to better yourself, you're going to naturally become less inclined to do things that are, you know, not moral. So yeah, I guess it's more of a subjective law than an objective law. And you have to be actively seeking it out to really embed yourself in it. That's what I got from that passage.
Thanks, Ashley.
I mean, Billy, if I really believe this, why would I do anything to hurt anybody? Because I'm just hurting myself. I mean, it would just be kind of insane. It reminds me of the Twilight Zone. You know that old show?
Mm-hmm.
And often there'd be like a lesson in it, like the guy who gets, like he's a gambler or something, and then he always wins, and he's in hell. He finds out he's in hell because now gambling's no fun if you're always gonna win, right? And I don't know, just like so retribution, and I wonder too, like, I mean, it really is like you kind of said it, Johnny. Like, if I think about it, and thanks for reminding me to be grateful, because look, we're all here, we're all talking about whatever we're talking about, but just the fact that we're all here
Right.
talking and we're listening to each other is like a big deal, right?
Right.
So it's really, I mean, if I think about it, I'm pretty much alone all other time. I'm like around clients, and then I have my daughter, but I've never really in a group like this, and even AA in general before the pandemic. What a blessing that I could go to meetings and like have an instant, what would you call it, like social life or something.
Right.
Especially for me, because I'm kind of shy, and it's hard to get me to talk sometimes. It probably doesn't seem like it to you guys, but so yeah, that is. I'm grateful too.
I just want to echo that. You know, I think I've talked about it before, but the first time I came here, I hadn't been to a meeting in about 16 months. And I've been going to Zoom meetings, which are what they are. I'm grateful they happened. But I walked in, I think I sat where John was sitting now, and Pat was sitting where he is. I was actually where Pej is. It doesn't matter where we're sitting.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
I put my hand up to share and was invited to speak. And I started talking and I heard Pat go, and I felt this wave of being seen and heard in a way that I hadn't experienced in 16 months. And in that moment, I was like, and there it is. That's what we do. We see each other and we hear each other. You can't fake it on Zoom. You can't get it anywhere else. This is what we do. You know, we come here to get seen and heard. Like everyone talks about the message to the newcomer. Newcomers need to be heard. They don't need to be told. I needed to be heard, and I still do. You know. Anyway, I'm gonna shut the boat up.
Thanks, Sam. 2 minutes before chaos.
Oh,
I'm on it.
wow.
So refreshing, huh? How it's so simple. It's just be a good person. Like that's right. The takeaway for me.
Right,
Like,
right.
look, just be good. Like, how refreshing.
But also look at when you're not. That's the hard shit.
Right.
That's and when like the homies are like, yo, like maybe like try like not. I mean, like yeah, like I remember when you and Veronica were like telling me, I don't know, before we went on a lake trip, it was like a big pull up. It was like something about me just being selfish or just being obsessed with my what at the time I was trying to do all that stuff. I wasn't like paying attention to her or what was it? That shit was hard to hear, bro. But I'm like,
Well, she asked me to.
yeah. No, this is a really good example though. I want everyone to hear it because I just with fucking
I mean,
15 years
just sort of
sober.
selfish and inconsiderate, I think, was her, what she was upset. Like, not considering her, only yourself.
Oh, and like not listening
Yeah.
because I was trying to like, I'm worried about people I don't know, trying to build something and reach people I don't. But it's like, what about the people that are right in front of you? Like first, like they're important. They're the most important.
I mean, this is my observation of the situation: is that you're a rallier, you're a doer, you run companies, you bring people together. You're a showrunner as a personality type, and as a result, and you know, this comes under the guise of my spiritual arrogance. I do the same thing, but like the thing that gets me into that state, it sounds like you're in, is if everyone would just do this my fucking way, this would go so perfectly. Why weren't they just? And in that moment, I'm so convinced that I'm right, and I can't see that I'm driving everyone fucking crazy. And it takes someone else to say, you know, you're all over here.
I remember now. Like, you lack things like please, thank you. Like, you'll give somebody props later, maybe like the next week, but right there in the moment, I want this, that, and blah blah. You know, like, but too much, like, you know.
And the only reason I'm bringing this up is so we can all learn from like, you know, being pulled up on something because we're doing a lot of that in this house. We're like pulling each other up and shit. It's like hard, right? But that whole vacation, I went to the lake. I remember like consciously not doing that, you know, like not like trying to capture every moment and like just be like distracted. Whatever. We all have our own version of this. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm just saying is like, it's more than just like, cause I'm trying to be a good person. We're trying to be good people, but we're also like trying to go to work and like do chore. I mean, people in the house have a lot on their plate, you know? So it's like, I wasn't trying to like make it about me. I was just trying to say that like, it's more than just being a good person. It's being able to look at how you can like grow and have humility and like be vulnerable.
It's absolutely, like you said, the fourth step. We got to see like our resentments and then our character defects. And
as alcoholics, and this meeting isn't just for alcoholics. You know, Greg's
I'm a
here.
normie.
And he can relate to a lot of the stuff we're talking about. And I'm curious if normies, if that's what they're saying with the mote. They're saying there's a beam in my eye. He's not talking about alcoholics. He's talking about people. So yeah, like get the beam out your eye before.
I thought it was the mote.
No, I'm looking at a mote in your eye, right? But there's a beam in my eye, is what it's saying.
Yeah.
The mote's smaller than the beam. guess.
Right. It's like I'm the motherfucker because I'm judging you because you got some defect, but I'm the
It's,
motherfucker.
but it's just so hard, bro. Like I'm convinced it's a beam in your eye and just a little mote in mine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm convinced. Like you're
Right.
like I'll look at my shit, but you're really the one that's fucked up.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
And dude, I was watching fucking Squid Game last night, bro, in my house. Like I have all these amazing things. I'm sober, and I'm like, I can't even focus. I'm just fucked up in my head because like someone who I love and care about is like, I'm just, maybe losing them. Where I'm having issues with a person, and just in general, and I'm like, I can't think about anything else because I'm wanting to like, we can be fucked up no matter what we have going on. Like literally have no peace. I couldn't even sleep because I'm in my head.
What's so curious is you still have the same problem, but you're okay tonight. You
I'm
feel
great.
good tonight. So
I'm
that's
like
evidence
totally great right now.
that nothing's changed except
Nope.
the state of mind.
Yep.
Drake's mom said it best. She has a 72-hour rule where, like, if something or someone bothers you, you sit on it for 72 hours. And if you still feel the same way, go ahead and react.
Hmm.
So recently there was an instance where this kid came at my business on social media. And I had just seen this before. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to ignore it. But my business partner's in his early 20s. So he calls me up and he's really like intense about it, right?
Yeah.
And my response was, whatever you want to do, whatever your reaction is, I will co-sign. So if you want to go light his house up, let's go light his house up. If you want to forget it, we can, like, whatever you want. Well, he's like, well, that's why I'm calling you, because I don't know what to do. What should we do? All right, well, how's our database looking? How's that new hire coming along? Like, let's focus on like the future that we have already planned out, as opposed to like letting this one little thing just fuck everything up that we've been working so hard for. Let's stick to the vision. And so then my team saw that, and the way that my team rallied around our business, like our sales reflected it, our content reflected it, like our team just operated out of a different state. But it would have been real easy to go on like, oh, let's attack. Now it's a beef. Like, let's put that energy into it, and then losing sight on the projects we have at hand, right?
No, like we've just been through a lot in the house, right? And it's like it's the same thing.
Right.
We could either be fucked up about it, or we can use that as like a learning experience and like motivation to like do better. And I feel like that's just what I'm doing. That's why I'm so good today, because I'm trying to like harness that energy into like being better and focus on what's in front of us and being more vigilant and more attentive and like more vulnerable, more honest, and like rally around the senior people or the whole house really.
I remember that too. Like we said that on the podcast many times. The many confrontations that we had is like we confront each other, and if we get through it, our bond is stronger, right?
Hopefully.
Or we don't get through it.
But then being in a leadership position, it gets trickier, right? So like it's one thing for me to take care of me and like to be this nice person, but then when other people are looking at us for not just a paycheck, but for like direction, for mentorship, then like I have to always be operating like in a higher, more disciplined state. Like I'm not allowed that moment of like, let me put my shoulders down because I have like a team of people that depend on me. So like some moments in my life, I feel like I never put the sword down, but we chose that, which is pretty cool that we get to live by that. Because I have friends that live by default, right? They live siloed, they operate siloed, and that's their world. But I've chosen to like take people under me as employees, as friends, as a mentor, and like so sometimes it's tough to like look onto self and do like good for like others when like feelings may get hurt.
But that's like where you have like your team, like your other like close people around you, like other than from work. Like I don't know, for me, like seeing like Pat or like Danielle or Woody like get vulnerable and put the sword down at times, it kind of helps remind me that they're human and they're like they're just like us, and it gives me kind of like just that, because sometimes for me, I'll put like people on a pedestal, right? And then then it leads to disappointment. But if I just already like can remind myself that like we're all equal, like everyone in this house is equal, staff or not, like I feel like we're all in this together, like as a team, like and that's what makes us better as a team. And so it's all right to see, because I think that like when we see faults in our leaders, it creates. I saw it in the house in a group. Like it was just like it created this like breakage of like people didn't know what to do because there was something that they didn't agree with from someone higher up that they, but like really it was just a mistake made and it's okay. Like and we just need to band together and get stronger from those mistakes, if that makes any sense. And like what keeps me going is that like I have like a strong support system of people that call me out to lift me up. They're not going to just call me out and let me like be in the dumps. Like they're going to pull me up with them, and then it's like I can go into it a lot stronger because
Do you
of that.
mean within the house or outside of the house or both?
Well, I'm about to start experimenting with outside the house, like because of like just where I'm at. Right now, in the last 7 months, almost 8 months, my whole life has been this house. There really hasn't been much of me on the outside. So like
your support group is in here.
totally. And so right now, my next step is to start implementing like my family in my life, and like being strong in that, and
Good
also
luck.
right and setting boundaries and like learning how to balance like my job, recovery, my own program, because like work isn't my program, right? Like I call addicts and I talk to addicts all day, but that's not where I like get my recovery. Like I have to run my own program for that. And then where I get my family, it's just like how am I gonna that's where I lean on my support group. Some people that like I've already been reaching out to people from outside this house, like just to have other people, as many people, doesn't matter. But like when I'm out there and I can't call someone from the house to be there right away, if I have someone from meetings, that's like I don't, you know what I mean? I'm still figuring this out. I'm still like a 2-year-old baby. I mean, I turned 1 in here. I grew up a little bit. But I learned how to crawl, and pretty soon I'll learn how to walk. It's gonna be interesting. But
And the word mistake, like fail, lose, it's just such shit. Like they're just words. It's not even necessarily a bad thing.
Distraction.
It's a part of like moving forward. Like you have to. The way we learn is by falling.
It's prototypes. Right? It's not like Steve Jobs was like, "Oh, iPhone."
Right.
You know?
It's the version. It's keep getting better and better and better. And even when the iPhone comes out, there's still updates.
Well, Elon Musk was saying it in that Joe Rogan podcast. He was like when we make the first rocket, we expect it to blow up. And if it doesn't blow up, that's a problem.
Dude, it's so.
So that's why for the longest time in my bio, I had that I was on the quest for like the best version of me, because it was like a moment by moment, like not even struggle, but challenge,
Wait, if the rocket doesn't blow up, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Right. You want it to blow up.
Why?
Otherwise, I don't know what's wrong with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Moonshot.
Oh, I see.
Fucking
So
Elon,
you
bro.
want it to fail, so you can see where it's gonna fail.
He made it pointy too because of that movie, The Dictator. He thought that was like a joke for him to make it pointy. Like it realistically doesn't matter if the rocket's pointy, but he made it pointy. Because of that
Right.
movie.
I remember hearing that podcast.
It's a really good one.
Yeah, one of the best
Dude,
ever.
Yeah.
it's that time.
Chaos time?
Well,
No,
no,
it's been chaos.
Oh, that was chaos?
I
I'm
mean,
gonna
go.
say it quick.
Um,
We usually just do a prayer, like,
Totally.
Corey, would you just take us out with a prayer?
That was very mild,
Prayer,
yes.
prayer.
But it was like a lot of back and forth.
Yeah, it was.
That's the piece out of it.
Yeah.
It is God.
It was so waiting.
No, I was processing everything that
Like,
mixed up.
I love that. You're like, this is like a really evolved version of you.
So like right now,
Just
it's
say God,
like
like
a total
Our Father,
abstract version of like
our God.
Travis Scott.
God,
God,
Grant me
the
the serenity
strength
to
to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can,
And
the wisdom to know the difference.
Amen.
Amen.
Gracie.
I'm tripping on this
You know?
where it
Yeah, I
says
got you.
water,
Like,
the law of
you
retribution
do that
is
fucking
even
like,
as the law of
fun
gravity. Water
with
finds its own level,
That's right.
and like
and sooner or later,
that-
water,
again,
and
that's
sooner or later, our treatment of others returns
little pieces. And then
last
put them
You
on
upon
drove from Marina Del Rey?
ourselves.
a piece of wood.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Who's
So
our
it's like
man who
water,
made of
skate,
water?
It all ends
Finds
up.
its own level.
You know what I was thinking about, Sam? Was
Who's
your
our hand?
comfort or joy?
Them on like little cards like this. He does art pieces like that. It's $20 all day.
Why?
Are you
Um,
uncomfortable?
No.
Yeah,
That's it.
Kelly
Keep
messaged
them
me because
Do it.
I had told her
Yeah.
that our exhaust fan upstairs wasn't working, and she was like, "That's."
No, I just got
told me
Mikey.
Beating, I mean,
Mikey will handle it.
But if you're
Okay.
uncomfortable, you're on your way to joy.
Yeah.
Whether it's
Well, I was a little uncomfortable at dinner. I got a couple more thousand words.
of course.
But every time I finish the words, I feel better.
I don't even know how to spell.
But every time I get
I
a
don't know.
finish
Right
the
now,
words,
right now would be the time to plan that out. We can
because
plan.
no one wants
And then
the
maybe we can
things
talk tomorrow
that
during the day.
take them to joy.
yeah,
Because the things that take you to joy.
Give me a buzz when you go to work.
yeah. I'm experiencing that.
Gracie,
Aw.
Queen of the
Compliance
Castle.
I mean,
versus-
it's all my Indian
It's
friends on
the
Friday.
thing of like you
So I
want
have this
to rock
Indian
the
community that has
Yeah.
taken me in.
Yeah.
So I get to hang out with them.
Yeah, surrender-
So much
surrender looks like
fun
just doing
and,
what I'm
like very.
Caleb. What are we?
Do you eat Indian food?
Probably.
I doubt
So I had to write 5,000 words.
Last night.
I don't know what you got. Remember Jordan?
Thanks for coming, guys. This is our first stream back, and we're gonna start doing this every Monday. So tell your friends.
So yeah, it'll be cool.
We're gonna. I mean, look, there's not a whole lot of people in here, but it's okay. Hopefully, next time we can promote it more and get more people in it.
Like that. I said, well, no, I haven't.